Hi, I'm Jalen Rose, and welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, proudly presented by the New York Post, a show where we cover trends in fashion, entertainment, current events, and everything in between. Our next guest is a legend. David Alan Grier has had iconic roles in movies and TV shows such as Boomerang, In Living Color, Jumanji, and The Carmichael Show. He's a successful stand-up comedian, every late night show's favorite guest. And this year, my brother won a Tony Award for the best feature actor to play in his role as Waters in A Soldier's Play. It's an honor, my brother, to have you on the program. Please welcome David Alan Grier to the show.
Doing, Mr. Rose? How you doing? I've been a big fan of yours. You know how we kick it. Jalen and Jacoby is my go-to. It is my must. It is my everyday diet. So love you guys. First of all, before we kick off, I need to interview you, brother. You just came back from the Middle East?
Yes, I did.
Cutter.
I did, man. Little kid from Detroit, gotten a chance to go over there. And it was incredible to just learn about a new culture. You know, like, being from Michigan, we're exposed to the Muslim and the Arab culture because that's a primary home here in Detroit. So it was a great opportunity.
You know that Dearborn, I don't know if it's current, at one time had the highest, I think it was it Iraqi American community, the largest community in the country in Detroit. And what happened in the 90s is the sons and daughters of these immigrants, it was Detroit. So the kids got into hip hop, yet all of these classically trained Iraqi musicians who were their parents, their uncles, their aunts had flooded in and migrated to that area. And it was a strange mix. Detroit had its own sound. It was like, it wasn't house, it was jungle house, Middle Eastern flavored craziness. It was wild.
That's what I was gonna ask you. What was it like growing up in Detroit for you? And did you always know you wanted to act? Well,
first of all, I'm going to say I'm a generation before you. I'm 65. So I grew up in the 60s. Mm-hmm. I grew up prime Motown era. Mm-hmm. I thought Detroit was next to New York or Paris. I mean, we had everything. We had the car industry. We had the hottest, the baddest music coming out of Detroit. We used to go to the Motown Review, WCHB, all of that. And experiencing as a kid, I just bought a vintage poster from the 1963 March, Martin Luther King Jr. It was called the Walk to Freedom, and I found a vintage poster. You know, my whole family, we marched that day. So those were my memories of Detroit. Of course, tinged with that was the riot in '67 and the city going through turmoil. But that's my home, you know, sticking with it. I always came back and tried to give back to my alma mater, Cass Tech. And I went to University of Michigan, and mostly the people haven't changed. You know, the bricks, the mortar may be shiny, it may be rusty, but at the heart of the city's the people, they're always there, so.
And you saw the city change. So I was born in '73, and the riots were a pivot point in a lot of ways because that led to a lot of flight. And businesses not wanting to be in Detroit. And before you know it, we were a town of 1.5 million people. So now we have 600,000.
It's crazy, man. It's, you know, my relationship to that event, I remember I was in my sister's bathroom and these trucks, these half tracks, there were military vehicles going down the street, and I turned on the light because I couldn't see. I had to go to the bathroom. All the guns were trained on our window. Mm-hmm. They said, turn it on. You know, we hit the floor. But as kids, it was exciting, kind of scary. But for us emotionally, most of it was excitement because it was like being in an occupied city. Thank God it only lasted a week or so. But unfortunately, the city never really recovered. It's on a different vibe now, but for many decades, Detroit was really, really struggling. It became at one point a punchline, a joke, and hopefully now it's on the come up. I know that the last few times I've visited, there's some new energy there and young entrepreneurs. And we need that, the city needs that. And
I'm currently in Detroit right now, and I can't wait when you come to the city for you to visit the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. This is our 11th year, tuition-free public charter high school, and I'm in downtown. You be proud of the growth, the spirit, the diversity from a city that's so segregated for so very long that it's become more of a melting pot that makes me proud to be just one of the people that's trying to do my part to help resurrect.
Well, first of all, Jalen, everybody knows about LeBron. Everybody knows about like Magic Johnson, these billionaires who are putting their money to positive change. But you have been on the ground doing what you can do forever, for years and years and years, talking the talk and always showing up. So that's a tribute to you. You don't have to be a billionaire. You just have to do what you do. If it's $5, that's all you can afford, then just get that, and it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can I get an honorary degree or something?
We're going to hang your banner up. You a legend. No question about it.
Use me as a resource if you ever want me to come in and whatever I can do to sit with your guys, your kids, to mentor, or just put in time, talk with them, man. I'm there. I'm available.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So back to like your acting and getting into comedy. I know what I wanted to ask you. What are some of the dances? Name some of the dances you did growing up.
Well, I was thinking while I was coming in the house last night, Cool Jerk. I remember when Cool Jerk came out. Cool Jerk, dun 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 dun, Cool Jerk. So we did Jerk. We did what was this? It was called The Creep. The Creep at Beaubien Junior High. They say, you young people ain't gonna be doing no creep. Break them kids up. Break them kids up. They come, Mr. Grier, Mr. Rose, and that young lady, break it up right now. No grinding. No grinding. We did The Creep. We did The Jerk. We did, it was always about the new dance too. The Philly Dog. We were doing all that stuff. It was Robin Seymour's Swinging Time. And then later in the 70s, when Channel 62 came on, the scene was a local show. It was young Black kids in Detroit, and it was a dance show, and these dudes would come with the scarf. They were doing the scarf dance. That's the Detroit I remember. I remember one time I came home, I was taking the bus home. The Finkel bus we called it the Green Limousine. And we were transferring because I went to this prep school, and we came down in Northwest Detroit. It had to be like a players convention or something. Because Jalen, this was at the height of pimp cars. And people now, they think it's like just in the movies. No, man, this was for real, dude.
For real.
I saw these, red candy apple red Eldorados. They had checkerboard. This one dude had checkerboard mink dashboard. They were car after car. It was about 9 or 10 of them lined up. But me and my friends, we must have been 12. We went crazy. It was just mind-boggling when you would see these cars and these dudes for real. It wasn't no movie, man. For real, rolling like that. We would, oh my God, it was crazy. The Players Ball at the Michigan Palace, baby.
Correct. And that's why it's important for us to acknowledge all sides of our city, because I remember the scene was a source of pride. We felt like the world had Soul Train, and I looked up to Don Cornelius. He was handsome. He was well-dressed. He had Detroit artists on the show. I saw Aretha on the show. So he was a legend to me. And then I learned that he never let them get the answer wrong on the Scrabble board because he never wanted us to look bad.
Yeah. The scene was very, very local. Robin Seymour. We would go, there was the auto show, and then there was a hot rod show, which was what was it called? It was called the Autorama or something. And all the bands would play. And the state fair, when they had the Michigan State Fair, the grounds were in Detroit, and a lot of the Motown acts would go. Mm-hmm. And so it was all tied into that music and that culture that I kind of took for granted back then when I was a kid. But that's the Detroit I remember.
Yes. And what about like amusement parks, like Edgewater or Boblo?
Well, wait, you got to stop at Boblo because I want to apologize to my cousin Artie. Artie was a teenager and we were kids, and he had his first girlfriend, and they were on the Boblo Moonlight Cruise. So my family would go once a year. We followed him around every level. We're sitting, my brother and my cousins were like sitting there just teasing him, man. He must have been 16 or 17. And yeah, man, I didn't know as a kid you could drive to Boblo. I really thought, no, you gotta get on the boat. You get on the boat. And one time when my friends, they went to Boblo and we missed the boat and they drove us to Boblo Island. That was worse than finding out Santa Claus, man. It was like, oh my God, we could have been driving this whole time. Oh yeah, Boblo went up the Detroit River, the Boblo boat, and the Boblo Island was a little amusement park. Mm-hmm. Edgewater Park, Boblo. Those are real Detroit landmarks. You know, when Cedar Point came in, that was an outside corporation that kind of built an amusement park, which became the model around the country. What people don't know is before that, all these parks were individually owned, mm-hmm. and they really had that local flavor. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Edgewater Park and Boblo, those are for real. Detroit Drag Strip, mm-hmm. Detroit Dragway. But when I got older, we would build models of our favorite drag cars. And you know, on the local radio station, it was mostly the white station. Keener 13 would be like, you know, Connie Coletta. Here's the little red wagon. So me and my friends, we'd build them. And I used to have albums that we would get from the hot rod show. And it was nothing but the sound of your favorite driver. You understand? Mm-hmm. So it was like 3, 2, 1. That was the whole track. That was the whole track. We played in my friend's basement. We'd be high-fiving like, yeah, man. You know, that's how we used to roll. But
that's hilarious. And as you mentioned, you got your undergrad degree from the University of Michigan. Hail to the victors, my brother. No question about it. Your MFA from Yale.
I did go to Yale, but University of Michigan, my dad went there. And so we would come up, he would drive us up when we were real little kids, and we go to the museum. And Ann Arbor in the 60s was really, it was a political hotbed, you know, a lot of politics going on. And I loved Ann Arbor. I loved going to school there. And that vibe and that flavor, man. All part of, and you know, when I was there, it was really 45 minutes away from home, but I might have been, you know, 4,500 miles.
Close,
like, I'm
enough, but far enough.
Yes, man. When you get
driving fast enough, you can get there in 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Depending on when you're leaving.
Yeah, man. But you know, it's funny when people talk to me, like, yeah, you know, my dad was a doctor and all this kind of stuff, but my aunts and uncles made chitlins and you know, soul food and stuff. So there was both sides of it. And Detroit through and through, man. Young's Barbecue, that was our place. That was our place when I was a kid. My dad, we go over to the east side.
Get that Young's. On the west side, get that Major.
Yeah, yeah, man. All the good stuff, man.
So since it's the holiday season, as I'll call it, Thanksgiving, Christmas, first of the year, the new year, I'll ask you a couple of holiday themed questions. So what was Thanksgiving dinner like for you guys as a family?
Well, first of all, my mother would start cooking 2 or 3 days before. Number two, we always had Jalen rolls. Now listen to me carefully. The turkey was stuffed. Stuffed. We didn't have no side dressing. That's that bullshit. We had it in the turkey booty. It was stuffed. It was a 20-pound turkey. She would put it in at like 3 a.m. and give birth to that motherfucker the next afternoon. And that is how I make my turkey every year. Nobody ever got sick. Nobody ever died or fell out. It was oyster dressing. You hear me? Oyster dressing. And another thing, I don't think my mom ever made cranberry sauce from fresh cranberries. She got that can. She rolled that bad boy out with the ridges and just slice it. And we went on through. And another thing, yams. When I say candied, them bad boys taste like candy bars. Now, my mom would go out. We had the little miniature marshmallows, brown sugar. I mean, at the end of the day, it was just a damn tumor we were eating. But it was so sweet. So we had all that. And then it was usually New Year's Day was where the chitlins would come out. And that was on my mom's side of the family. I had this cousin, Guy and my mom. So Guy was the son of my mom's oldest sister. And they had this chitlin connection. My mom was real proper. And when my mom was on her last leg, when she was really doing poorly, I said, Mom, Guy sent over some chitlins. Don't you know? It was like Jesus himself. She sat up. She went, chitlins? Well, go get the chitlins. I was like, when I was a little kid, my mom would have the chitlins and she said, this is too good for you. It's too good for you. You can't have this. And so, of course, that's what I did. Now, so I still cook the chitlins once a year or once every couple of years. It's more as a tribute to my family and how we used to do it. Also, there was a weird thing. My mom and my aunt, they would give us coffee water. Like when my aunt was drinking her coffee, she would pour a little coffee in the saucer and maybe put some water and a little sugar in it, and we would drink it. Dude, that was like crack.
It was.
We were doing, we were doing summer songs, run all through the house, me and my older brother trying to kill each other, and I didn't even know. I was like, Mom, go back to Aunt Dorothy's house. My Aunt Dorothy, they called her Dot. Aunt Dot, because she got something over there that's special. All that stuff, man, was just there. It was just in my bones. I mean, real Midwestern, because all my people came from the South. They all came from Alabama. Of course, my mom was a fair-skinned, Jalen. That is inner Black knowledge. So she told me, she said, no, your father is from slaves. We're free. She told me. I was like, we're from Kansas.
Well, just like you, my family migrated from Bainbridge, Georgia, and my grandfather was a dark-skinned man. My grandmother was a fair-skinned woman, and we made these same jokes.
My mother said when she was older, she got real serious. She said, my mother, your grandmother said, Ruthie, don't you ever no dark-skinned Negro from the South. And that's the first thing she did.
What else, as we talk about Thanksgiving, something that happens around the table that's so beautiful. Everybody eating chitlins, everybody eating turkey, stuffed turkey, but the Lions are playing football.
Well, wait a minute, we got to roll back. There was a Thanksgiving game in Detroit. Wasn't it the Lions every
Yes,
Thanksgiving?
still is.
And that was our Super Bowl. That was really our
Correct.
Super Bowl.
Tell them again. I say this every year.
That's the Detroit Super Bowl, baby. Lions, Green Bay Packers, whoever they were playing, but the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. That is the Detroit Super Bowl. I remember going to see the Tigers, and back then they had ball day or they had bat day. Now you can't do that kind of stuff now because folks
can't give away no bats.
No, but those were fun times, man. Fun times. But yeah, definitely the sports culture. I grew up in an era of Dave Bing.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Bing,
50.
who to this day is just is royalty, Detroit.
Yes.
Not only from his career, but then he went on to be a businessman, politician, and just really a mover and shaker in and around Detroit. He was huge.
Dave so very much. He's my godfather. And as a mentor and as a leadership and what it means to handle yourself with class, he's the number one example for me. He and my father, Jimmy Walker, played together with the Pistons as he was chosen in 1967. And so another holiday theme question for you. So reminisce about one of your favorite Christmases or one of your least favorite
I'll tell
Christmases.
you, one of my favorite Christmas. Back in the day, they had Motown would do a Christmas show every year at the Fox Theater.
That's dope.
And WCHB, which was a local Black station, they did their Christmas show. So I got goosebumps now. So we got tickets to go see the Motown Review. And this is when, so as a kid, the biggest group to me, bigger than the Beatles, bigger than anybody, were the Temptations. We would spend hours in my basement with broom handles. And we had my sister's jump rope that we would extend and we'd do our, we do our Temptation thing. And that year was when I Know I'm Losing You came out. So, they had that 5-prong mic and they showed a movie. They showed a movie first and then the screen went up and that was a matinee show. So we went there, we all got tickets and it was amazing, man. And so by the time Stevie Wonder was on, Martha and the Vandellas, Willie Tyler and Lester, I remember they had one white group and these white boys got down. Who are they? They were called. They did. Shoot, I forget the name, but they had this act. They killed it. And Stevie Wonder came on, and he played drums for some of the acts. He did like this little comedy thing. He did fingertips. He did everything. So the stars of the show were the Temptations. They came out in matching brown suits. This outfit.
Cold.
And they sang when they hit. That was it, man. I must have fainted. It was crazy. And I remember walking because we couldn't find a ride.
Of course.
It was cold in my feet. I was the youngest. My brother,
nose all snotty.
Oh yeah, I was like, "Why y'all leaving me?" That was the best. That was the best Christmas, man.
So
the worst Christmas is just personal, it's family stuff. Like when my family broke up, my dad and my mom broke up. And I remember it was difficult, but those things happen in a family, and after a while, we all got back together. And
I do. And it's important that we discuss it in particular as Black men, because like the talk of anxiety and dealing with depression and how we overcome adversity, like people see us as success stories, but they underestimate the fact that we're not invincible.
Your story, I've heard you guys talk. And it's given me courage to, speak more of my truth. And everybody has had struggles. I came from I have always thought it was very privileged and background, but also there were struggles. After my dad left, my mother was a Detroit school teacher with 3 kids. Basically, she really raised us from the time I was 10 years old on. And so my relationship with my father was difficult, challenging. And it wasn't until I was a teenager and my best friend at the time, his dad died in a tragic car accident. I remember he told me, and he grabbed me and he said, "You have a father. You have to make peace with him. He's here. Don't blow that chance." And so it took years though. Begrudgingly, we kind of came back together. And I really am thankful and fortunate for that time to have a do-over. You know what I mean? I had the luxury of time to be mad, to sulk. Well, I'm not gonna talk to you. You didn't do right. And then finally, cautiously kind of making our way back to each other. And in the end, our relationship was good. It was really necessary, man, because I remember reading this book by Monster Cody. He was a well-known gang leader here in LA. And at the essence of that book was this young man. He said, I missed my father, and I was so touched by that. Like, this dude was the biggest, the baddest, the scariest mastermind, gangster, criminal. And at the heart of it, it always comes back to love, So, I mean, that's it. Also, I'll tell you one last story. When I was 7, this was the last magical Christmas. This is when my brother and I, we got these Evans bikes. They were both red bikes. And I remember coming downstairs and I was like, oh my goodness, how did Santa get the bike down the chimney? They were in the living room and we had little race car sets and it was crazy. And my mom said years later, she said, my dad was down there in his pajamas with a wrench, trying to put this stuff together. And yeah, that was the last year when I really had that wonder. I was like, Santa Claus brought me this. So, J.L. Hudson's was like our Macy's. It was 14 stories, a huge department store. And every year they did the Thanksgiving, Christmas parade. You go on the 14th floor and you go talk to Santa. I remember the first year they had a black Santa, dude. My girlfriend, she said, but what was it like? I said, what was it like? When you are unseen, unheard, and man, everybody lined up for the black Santa. We wore this brother out. His kneecaps collapsed. My brother was a teenager then. He has a picture of him with black Santa like, hey man, look here. We up in here. So yeah, man, seeing that change. And,
that was almost like when we saw a black president in a lot of ways.
You know what? That's crazy. I was telling someone, when my daughter, Lulu, she's 13 now, but she was a little infant and she was sitting on my lap. And I was watching CNN and John King said, wait a minute, we need to stop. Let me run these numbers again. He said, ladies and gentlemen, this statistically can happen. This has just been revealed that Barack Obama can actually win this election. So for me, that is where it all kind of crystallized. It was much more emotional than when he actually became president, because in that moment, it went from, Jesse Jackson to run, Al Sharpton, a lot of people, Shirley Chisholm ran, I'm gonna run for president.
Right.
But we didn't really, I don't know about you, but we entertained it.
Right.
But I didn't see it as a reality. And I burst into tears because I looked down at my daughter and I said, her world has changed forever. Because she's never gonna grow up in the same world as I grew up. She's gonna grow up knowing a Black president. And it was very emotional, but that was, I mean, come on.
I know that's incredible. And and like for me, like that symbolization, like you mentioned, whether it's of God, whether it's of Santa, and then whether it's the most powerful seed in the land, we always felt like we deserved the opportunity to be represented. So that's a level of validation that just it just overwhelming.
It is. Now, I'll tell you one other thing. You know, during the riot, I lived on 2200 West Boston between 14th and LaSalle. So there was a seminary, Sacred Heart Seminary up on Linwood. And the first night of the riot, my mother put us all in her station wagon. We were driving around. Somebody had painted this sculpture of Jesus Christ. It used to be all white. They painted his face and his hands black. And, you know, in 1967, that was such a subversive act that we just looked and we said, oh, they painted it white. The next day, we came back, it was black. So this battle went on for about a week till finally the priests and the seminary just gave up. And I'm telling you, when they painted it, it was so cold, it was professional. There wasn't a drip, there wasn't a dent. This bad boy was down to the fingernails. They just gave up. And from that point on, that was a Black Christ figure. And again, a subversive guerrilla act, but it really was from the people to the people. This is where we're at right now. You know, it's totally Detroit, totally 1960s moment.
Absolutely. And for you, like your career spanned 40 years.
I can't believe you say that again.
Right, like 40 years, brother. You know, Broadway, done comedy, done television shows. Yeah. Like you're a legend. Like, have you always been funny?
Yeah, man. I remember.
Did you have to study improv?
Bro, I'll put it like this. I hate when Black folks say this. You know, I've been acting my whole life. But Schultz Elementary School, Mrs. Van Otten, I must have been in 4th grade. I was a mess, man. She kicked me out. Now, you know, a class period is 40 minutes. I remember this one day, she kicked me out she kicked me out 4 times. So that's one every 10 minutes. She let me back in and I would just start acting stupid. Now, this was a time where our teachers, we would get paddled, hit you upside the head, smack you. Miss Van Otten never hit me. She never put hands on me because I think she liked me, but she couldn't stand me. I was that kid that would work. I'd be having kids laughing and stuff. So it was, you know, it was a natural progression if you really think about it. I was
and by the way, like you being the class clown snowballed into you being a part of the iconic Living Color. Like that to me, for the history of comedy and skits and creativity and like so many a collection of very talented human beings that like everything you guys have done has been cherry picked from that show. And so what are some of your favorite memories of the show? And what was it like taping that show with the Wayans family?
Well, you know, I met Keenan and Damon. I heard about the family through Robert Townsend. Robert Townsend and I were in Soldier's Story, the movie, and he and I shared a honey wagon. It was like this little mobile dressing room. So the first day I met him, and Robert and I's connection, like he's like one of those dudes, you meet him, and it was like we'd known each other forever. We were instant best friends. And he was telling all these jokes. He just had me rolling and crying. I never seen anybody as brilliantly funny. And I was like, oh my God. So halfway through that first day, he said, actually, those are my boys' jokes. I said, who's your boy? He said, Damon Wayans. He was doing Mo Money. He was doing all that. Antoine, you know, Robert was doing all that. And then he started talking about Keenan. I said, well, who's Keenan? He said, that was his brother. And how they were going to start this movie company, and they had scripts and they had all kind of stuff. We said, man, when you come out to LA, I was living in in New York then. He said, we want you to be down. And I was like, these dudes are crazy. So that's really how I met the Wayans. So when I came into that pilot season, I met Kim, I met Damon, I met Keenan. By the way, Damon always had kids. It was always like, was like, dude, who little kids is it, man? I'm like, back then he looked like Marlon. He was real skinny. He was real skinny. Dane was real skinny. And I saw these dudes. So we would hang out. I was not a comic then. And so when you sucker, it was really Keenan who said, man, you know, back then my dream was I wanted to be a doctor on TV, you know, a lawyer on like, you know, one of those lawyers shows. Leroy, come here. Can you make this case? Yes, I'll do. Mr. Rose, have a seat. You know, that was my thing. But he said,
syndicated, be on forever.
Yeah, man. But Keenan sat me down. He said, man, nobody knows how funny you are. I want you to do this show, man. And my agents didn't want me to do it. They were like, yeah, why you want to be on a show with a bunch of other Black folks as crabs and no, we're not gonna do this. And so I auditioned that year for, it must have been 30 pilots, all kind of stuff. It got so they would say like, well, we don't really need a Black person, but yeah, David can read, you know. None of them. I didn't get none of them. So finally at the end of the year, I went back to my agents and I just said, we're going to make this deal. Because I knew all my friends were on In Living Color. You know, they're like, but you're not going to make any money. And, you know, all this stuff. I said, I don't care. I want you to make this deal. So I was still in New York. We did the pilot. And that's my dog. And that's really what happened. I turned it down.
Let him run the house. I get it.
But you know what I mean? I was sitting on the ledge. She said, look here, man, you need to say yes. You're doing something wrong. You're making a wrong decision. You got to take this show. And I ultimately said yes. And that was last. Never looked back. It was the best decision. Sorry, man.
No, don't worry about it. But one thing people may not know about you also.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Jalen. I'm sorry, but this is I gotta let my daughter in.
I can wait. Hold on. Wait. I'm good, bro.
Hold on. Jalen, my daughter just came in. Sorry, man.
No worries. No worries.
You're talking about Detroit. This is the real Detroit. She was early, by the way. Oh, okay. So what I was saying is we had done the pilot, and I went back because the pilot was done a year before we got picked up, and we were waiting. And before the pilot, I had gone back to New York, and I'd said no 3 times. I just said no. And Kim Wayans called me, and it was like an intervention, a pep talk, everything. She said, this is the wrong decision. You are making a wrong turn in your life. You got to come and do this show. And she talked me into it. And I finally said yes. And that changed everything. It really did. I
often talk about being a stand-up comic is like the toughest profession. I've asked Ada Rodriguez about this. Neil Brennan has been on the show. To walk into a room of strangers and to get the pulse of a room and make them laugh, to me is like a phenomenal feat. So talk to me about like being in a room when you feel like everything is landing, and obviously the times where you feel like things weren't landing and how you recovered from that.
Well, one of the most interesting times, this is when Living Color was really big, and I played in this club in New Jersey. It was packed. And so when I came out, I hit the mic. This dude all the way in the back said, it was like he was yelling in my ear, we don't want nothing we can get for free. So that cut through everything. It was total silence, because that told me right there, no, you're gonna have to come with some new stuff. We don't want just these sketches that you do on TV. We want new stuff. Hold on, Christine, go around the corner. we want new stuff. We want fresh stuff. And in that moment, I kind of threw all that stuff out and I just had to become new and fresh. You know, I probably the most bizarre feeling was going back to Detroit that first time and headlining at the Fox Theater. And that's where the Motown Review was.
Yeah.
It was a sister theater in, I think, St. Louis. These were a palace. This is really amazing. It was a Michigan theater, the United Artists. You know, when I was a kid, we'd go down. And so here I was back in Detroit at this theater. I went in my dressing room and Aretha Franklin had sent the biggest bouquet of roses. And let me just speak for a minute on
Please
Miss Aretha.
do.
She was such a queen, and she always reached out and reached back and reached down to give me love and just shower me. I mean, you know, with as a fan and as a mentor and encouragement. Just, you know, I've been watching you. I didn't even thought she knew me. And she was like, yes, man. And we'd come and visit. And she would come and see me. Whenever I did a play on Broadway, she would come and see me. And she was just really sweet. I mean, always reached out.
Wow.
You know, just amazing, you know.
And as a sense of pride, you would appreciate the fact that just 5 minutes ago, I was riding up the Lodge Freeway, now named after Aretha Franklin.
And I'll tell you who else, Smokey Robinson. Smokey Robinson would come and I just would be, so it was like I was an adult and a kid. He came to see me a bunch of times, but I remember when he came to see Porgy and Bess on Broadway, and there's a picture of me. I should have sent it to you guys. I was sitting there like, I can't. Because he said, and he's another one, he said, man, listen, David, you're one of Detroit's finest, man. I'm always going to support you. And I'm like, I can't. It was crazy, man. These guys that I idolize and that just brought me into the fold, and it was awesome. You know, getting that love. And Smokey's still out there, brother.
Right. A legend, still looking good, still clean.
Look better than me.
All of that. All of that. The most handsome.
Yeah, so those are the times. I remember one time the Temptations were playing in New York, and they invited me up. They said, come sing with us. And, you know, I couldn't get out my seat, man. I couldn't. I was petrified. I'm like, no, let me just sit here and enjoy y'all. I'm going to ruin the show because I was not prepared. I couldn't remember no words and everything. And they were like, man, you know, why do you come up? I was like, no, man, come on, you do your show.
Absolutely. Yeah. But one thing people may not know about you also is that you're in the motorcycle. Yeah, when did your passion for bike start?
I was.
I with your daughter?
Yeah, I have a garage full of motorcycles, man. And probably mostly they're older now, older Ducatis. And I don't ride those, the Harleys, the Hogs. But real quick, when I was a kid, when the black motorcycle clubs were rolling, you could hear them coming down 14th.
No doubt.
My brother, all the kids, we'd run out and stand on the side. So these would be all black motorcycle clubs, and they would roll for blocks. You know, it'd be like 50 rolling hard. Now, back in the day, the wildest dude was the guy that was on the three-wheel bike, because they always brought up the rear. And with the crazy Viking helmet or something like that. That was crazy. Because, you know, nowadays, that's old dudes. that's like a motorized wheelchair. But back in the day, no, those were the soldiers, man. Those were the soldiers. These dudes were the baddest. So I remember those black motorcycle clubs. And as a kid, I didn't really know the history of black motorcycle clubs. A lot of them were veterans, you know, from the Korean War, World War II, and Vietnam War. But that was big fun. We never knew when they'd be coming. We just heard them, you know. But I'm a big fan, man. So I got a bunch of bikes like that. I don't ride as much as I used to because now I got 2 big dogs. I have a daughter. I got a family, you know, be riding out like that. But I look at them.
And as you make reference to military, A Soldier's Play, my brother, you were nominated 4 times.
Yeah.
40 years of acting.
Yeah.
You won a Tony Award. Congratulations, brother. What was that like for you?
First of all, to do a soldier's play, I first did the play in 1983. There's an actor I was roommates with, Reg E. Cathy. He was an actor. And he called me up and he said, listen, man, we all knew about the play. He didn't want a Pulitzer Prize. And he said, listen, there's a part in this play that I'm not right for, but you should go get this, man. It was for C.J. Memphis. He sang and everything. He said, you can do this. So again, I called up, I went in, auditioned for Douglas Turner Award, got the role. So I was in there with Adolph. That's where I met Denzel Washington. You know, all of us were Sam Jackson. We shared the dressing room. And I told this story. So Sam Jackson in 1984 was Sam Jackson now. It's just the world had. And I tell you, there was no difference in his personality. He was exactly the same back then as he is now. And he controlled the dressing room. He was in the corner. And we had this little black and white TV that was like 12 inches. So they had it up on all the way stuck in the corner, and they would watch Family Feud. But this is all Sam Jackson, Adolph Caesar, all these Black folks. They say, name your favorite dessert. Go. And they'd be like, tapioca pudding. Tapioca pudding. Well, what's wrong with you, man? I mean, we talking back and forth. It was crazy. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. We watched that. It was on heavy rotation. This came on every day. It was a running commentary. Man, you about to ruin my tapioca. Ain't nobody. Hey, you ever had no tapioca pudding? He said, nah, I knew a guy named Tapioca. I met him. It was just breaking off of it. It was like a comedy show, man. So I was in there like 6 months. It was amazing. And so we went right in and did the movie. Sam didn't get in the movie. His part was kind of cut down. So you got to imagine, I'm like, damn, poor Sam. I wonder what's going to happen to him. I mean, I got in there, Denzel got in there, Harry Riley, Adolph. So we went so that's really rare. People, because usually when you do a play, it takes years for them to buy it, develop it, get a script. No, man, they had Norman Jewis and we went there right through. We did the movie. It was a big hit. I even thought that Soldier's Play had been on Broadway. It was off Broadway. So a couple of years ago, Kenny Leon, who I'd worked with, I know, he called me up. And this is how the universe, this is how God works. I was sitting in this parking lot thinking, well, if I were going to do a play, it would have to be one of these things where I have to do it. You understand? There's no doubt. I need to change my life, rearrange my life so I can do this. And so Kenny calls. I said, hello. He said, hey, David. And my heart started beating. Because, whenever Kenny calls, I know it's something, man. He's going to get me caught out there. He said, what you doing? I was like, oh, man. I was like, Kenny, what's going on, man? He said, well, we're doing Soldier's Play, and we're doing it on Broadway. And I was like, but I thought it had already been on Broadway. He said, no. As a matter of fact, this is the first time in history it'll be on Broadway. Then my heart's pounding. And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm doing it. And I want to know if you'd like to do the play. And I was trying to find out. I don't want to join your band, man. I don't want to play bass. I don't want to sing background. So I said, yeah, I don't know, man. My schedule's crazy. And he said, well, it's going to be a limited run. That's struck that down. He said, we're going to go right after Thanksgiving, be out by March, which in Hollywood, that's where everything shuts down. That knocked that out. I was like, oh man, he got me. And I said, yeah, but what part? He said, sorry, of course, Sergeant Waters. And I said, let me think about it, man. He said, really? I just had to get off the phone because I knew I was going to say yes. I said, he gathered my head, man. And so I started running this. I said, I got to do it. I mean, in a nutshell, I never thought that I would be connected to this play, this piece of work like this. And it was one of those times to do this. So we were off and running, man. And there I was again. So what happened, we sold, we acquired the rights and set up a deal with Sony Pictures to develop it as a limited series. And basically what we're doing is it's kind of an origin piece, because if you've ever seen the play or the movie, there's so many flashbacks when Waters talks about the world he grew up in, what his daddy told him, how it used to be, how they used to handle troops, and how it was like going back to Europe. And every night when I'll do the play, I wanted to know more about that. I wanted to see that world. These Black soldiers fighting in World War I. What was the Croix de Guerre? You know, what was it like them marching and having flowers thrown at their feet by these European men and women? And so that's what we're going to really crack open to set you up so that we're ready to walk right into the play. You understand? All that. So that's kind of what we're doing. And it all came to a head. But with that being said, you know, I was sitting there. I'd had a great week, Jalen. I went to the best restaurant. I was with the best girl in the beautiful hotel, you know, and I said, this night's going to be great. Don't you know, they called my name and I had to wait, because the one thing I didn't want to do is David Alan Johnson. I waited, and then when I started, then I ran to the stage because, like I said, well, I gotta get to the stage because I was in the back because they're gonna shut the mic off on me. It's crazy. So if you watch the film, people are trying to hug me, and there were two things going. I said, "Don't give me COVID," and I'm going to the stage. So I look like I'm running a football play because I'm like, sometimes these people, but I see these faces that I know they're trying to hug me, and I got on that stage. You know, it's great. I don't care what anybody tells you, it's fun, man. It feels good.
Yes.
It's a special thing. And like you said, I said, you know, I've been acting 40 years, but what I cut myself off because I would have started, you know, crying and stuff, and I wanted to finish my speech. But I wanted to say that it didn't feel like 40 years. It was so much fun. It was such an incredible journey, man, that no, it wasn't, I've been suffering for 40 years. No, man, it was like a crazy ride that went by like that. And here I am. So yeah, it was all that stuff. I feel real grateful. I'm glad I won it this time and not when I was 25, because I'd have been a mess.
It'd have been a different point in life.
You know, the brothers would just try to be like, but where's your Tony now, man? You know what I mean? I know you get dudes coming to you, man. I can beat you. I can beat
that
you.
time when y'all came to Cody, or that time we played at St. Cecilia. You remember that time I crossed you over?
What are you talking about? What we gonna do now, Jalen? Rose, one-on-one, come on. You're like, man, please stop. You know,
man, but you're a legend, my brother. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm forever grateful for your leadership and how you represent our city, how you represent yourself, how you represent your family name. And before I let you get out of here, though, I have a rapid fire segment called Gone in 60 Seconds.
Let's go.
Do this?
Yes.
Name your favorite living color sketch of all time.
I'm going to say it was the Prison Cable Channel Network. I missed it in the first year because that was a sketch that the whole cast, we performed together, and nothing was more fun than that. Keenan, because Keenan, you know, he would be sitting in the big tower, but he played the death row comic, you know, and all you saw was his lips. He'd be like, I'm dying in here. Oh, yeah. You know, Jim Carrey, we all played on that together. So that was my favorite.
Name
sketch.
one play or musical on Broadway you would like to star in.
I'm gonna say probably Othello, man, just because I could wear them robes and, you know, pontificate and be a black man doing Shakespeare.
I heard that, Renaissance Man family. Y'all heard that. Stay tuned. We're going to put that in the atmosphere. That'll be a good look right there. That is a good look. How about this? If you could start a motorcycle club, what would the name be, and what would you have as the logo on the vest?
It would be the Black Squirrels, man. The Black Squirrels from Belle Isle. Be like,
I can't lie. And it's a Detroit thing because we have black squirrels. They don't have them nowhere else, seems like. And I'm like, they're undefeated.
Listen to me. People think I'm lying to this day when I tell people we have black squirrels in Detroit. Now, here's the kicker. They only live on Belle Isle and around Belle Isle. They're all black. I've never seen them nowhere. I looked it up. They can't explain it. I was like, okay, well, they're black. Okay. But why only on Belle Isle? They were like, well, that's what the influence at, because I never seen nowhere else. The black squirrels.
Oh, man.
Sound hard, but it is hard.
And lastly, but certainly not least, who is an up-and-coming comedian and or actor that you're kind of blown away by that we should put on our radar?
Well, there's a guy, I mean, people know DC Young Fly. Black folks do, but I'm impressed by him because he's this dude. I saw him play drums. Mm-hmm. He's amazing. He just worked with my friend Tasha Smith on Black Mafia Family. He's an actor. He's a comedian. He smooth knocked this dude out. You got to go on the internet. He looked like Sugar Ray Robinson, and then stood there and talked for the next 20 minutes.
Like Muhammad Ali.
Bam! You know, me or you, I'd be like, oh, he came in. I mean, I'd be like LeBron last night, brother. I mean, no, the dude, smooth knockout. So this guy, I love him. I love his flavor, man. I mean, he's just coming, and he is set, I think, to ascend on an international level. Mm-hmm. You know, there's one thing like, oh yeah, I saw you, Jalen, mm-hmm. in the park. But no, we talk about getting rings and stuff like that.
DC Young Fly has now and next, you heard it from icon, David Alan Grier. I'm forever grateful, my brother, that you took the time to join me. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Let's kick it, man. Keep doing the thing.
All love.